What's up everybody, and welcome to the next series in this video where we will be discussing Queen Sindel, who had the most plus pressure in this game. If I had to rank the amount of plus frames that characters got in this game off their cancels, I would say 1 was Sindel, 2 was Kratos, 3 was Sonya, 4 was Cabal, and then from there on that would be the list going downwards. Then you would have Rain and other characters with cancels. But Sindel had the most amount of plus cancels that had really high numbers compared to other characters. I'm not talking about things being, mainly +1 or +2 like Cabal. No, Sindel's cancels, a lot of them were pretty plus on block. Just to show you some of them, let's say you decide to do something like 2, right? Now, I want to show you first what Sindel players would use to cancel. She had 2 main cancels, but they would all use her flight. So in this game, you had a flight move, and you could use it to go in the air and fly around, but people didn't really use it for that. What they would do is they would do flight, and then the cancel is you would press block. Now the input for this is down, down, up. So down, down, up, you go into flight. If you press block, she'll cancel it any time during it. Now what you could do is if you were quick enough, you could do down, down, up, block, and it would look like that. She barely leaves the ground. She does like this little tiny hop, and she recovers very quickly. You can really spam this to build some good meter. And if you did it quick enough, you could do it off of cancel and immediately do that, and it looks like you basically cancel the entire normal like instantly. If you were to do something as simple as just 2 into this, that was +10 on block. +10. If you were to do something like 2-1 on block, the second hit being a low, this was +8 on block. If you were to do her 3-1-1 into cancel, this would be +8. If you were to do down 4 into flight cancel, that was +8. So she had all these normals that you could tack on for flight cancel, and you can make them crazy plus. This was +10, this was +8, this was +8, this was +8. This was literally a block infinite in the corner. If you did not have armor to armor out of this, you literally got blocker. You had to get hit by the second down 4 to get out of this. So if you fought a Sindel player that had this execution to do this, she could really rush you down and apply these plus frames, and then you had to guess a strike throw after off any of these. This is one of the things that made Sindel very good in this game. You could cancel so many of her normals and gain this crazy amount of plus advantage. Now she had another way to cancel, and this one wasn't used as much because her flight cancel frame data was already good enough. Like being +8, being +10 off these normals was already good enough. You didn't really have to do this, but in this game she could. She had her scream, and if you did the EX version of her scream, you could hold it down and then she would charge it. Now, if you were to cancel this, you could immediately cancel it, like almost instantly, and this would give you more plus advantage than her regular flight cancels. It would make everything I said that was plus increase it by 2 frames. So now if you were to do this, that's +12 instead of +10. So this becomes literally +12. It's so plus that the grab whiffs because Katana is still stuck in block stun. Let me say that again. This is so plus that the grab whiffs because Katana is literally stuck in block stun. She cannot move. So if you were to do this flight cancel, that's +10. You do this flight cancel, that's +10. This is +10, but like I said, you didn't have to do this because her normal flight cancels, which were meterless, and you always had access to doing these. You had these available 24/7. They didn't cost any resource. These were good enough for being plus. So you could kind of just get creative with Sindel and do really good offense. Now, 2 of the main weaknesses Sindel had in this game is she was one of the characters that had no armor attacks. So when she was on the receiving end of somebody pressuring her, like Cage getting in, you had to hold all of that. Your only way to get out of stuff was pokes. She did have a 6 frame down 1, but not having armor in this game was a huge weakness because it made it so getting out of stuff was 10 times more difficult than just poking out. Her other weakness was she didn't really have a way to perform a fast mid. She didn't have fast mid, so this string was a good mid, but it's 15 frames. So even though she's +8 after this, or +10 after this, this was a 15 frame mid. So she didn't have any 9-10 frame mids. This was probably her best mid, her 4, but you couldn't cancel this. This you could not cancel. And the extension to this was a double mid. This was actually a very good mid. You just couldn't cancel it. So off her fastest mids, this was 11 frames or 12, I believe. But again, this you could not cancel. So she had 2 fast mids, back to 4, but you couldn't cancel these. So you couldn't go off flight pressure off them. You had to use her slower mids like this, and so on to do pressure. But it was very fun to pressure with her. And the cool thing is, on some of her normals, she also had an air fireball, and this was one of the best air fireballs in the game. It was extremely quick. It went downward angle, so you couldn't duck these. Like, if you were playing against Cabal, you couldn't duck these like other air projectiles that people would throw at you, like Katana, Cabal, Melina. These you couldn't duck, so these you had to always eat 2% chip. Combine this with her low fireball. She was also a top 5 zoner in the game. She actually had better zoning than Cabal. True story, Sindel could outzone Cabal. She could use this to go under instant air fireballs. She could use this to go over low basalt, and Cabal had to come. Now, obviously, Cabal beat her because sadly Sindel was a big hitbox character, so all of his strings worked on her. She had no armor. She just got rushed down very easily. But she was, without a doubt, I'm gonna actually say top 3 zoner. She was probably a top 3 zoner. If I had to rank the zoning characters, 1 and 2 would be Kenshi and Freddy, because they had equally as strong zoning. They just did it differently, and in different matchups their zoning was better than each other. So 1 and 2 was Freddy and Kenshi. 3 was definitely Sindel, because she made almost everybody go to her. 4 was Cabal. I would say Cabal was definitely top 5 zoning, and then 5 and so on, that it was pretty debatable with a lot of characters. But anyway, getting back to this pressure, Sindel had these crazy plus normals off everything. She couldn't, like I said, off her fastest mids, this being her fast mid, this being fast, she couldn't go into her flight, so you had to use her other slower mids to go into her flight pressure. This being a 15 frame mid, her down 4 being, I believe, 13. Which is probably her fastest way to enter this. And a cool thing was, she could do her air fireball out of strings. So if you whiff this string, come down with fireball. If you whiff this string, you could do all these strings and cancel into fireballs. Now, what you could do with this on block, this string was actually very cheap. This was a very good footsie string, because whenever this was blocked, you could confirm it's blocked because it's 2 hits. Go into air fireball. If you do this into air fireball, that's actually plus. So depending on the spacing, the closest it's done, it'll be +1, and the further it's done, like let's say from like back here max distance, it'll be +3. So you were able to make the string +1 to +3. Let me demonstrate that. I'm gonna put Katana to hold up every time she blocks this. So this is up close. You can see how Sindel jumps up first, right? That's +1. Now if you space it a little bit, like from right back here, hit it at the tip, you can see how now it looks like Sindel moves up much quicker than Katana does. Kind of hard to do this because I'm using 2 hands. Yeah, you can see that Sindel moves up quicker. So that was a very cheap string, because if this hit you, it was a launcher. It was a 0 on block. The string on its own already, it was a 0 on block 14 frame launcher. 0, so you could pressure after. But on block, you would do this to keep people out, make them get in again. So you would always be plus. If they go to block, come in with pressure. And just pretty much get creative with her offense. Sindel she was probably the most underrated character in this game. A lot of people felt she was low tier, but she actually wasn't. In my opinion, she was around mid tier. I would put her like low mid to mid tier. She definitely was not bottom 5, bottom 10. But if this safe string hit you, you do a simple meterless combo. This is just a basic combo. And yeah, she could get 30% off that. And she had some high damaging combos, like if you hit somebody with this safe half screen mid into overhead, second hits overhead, she did have mix-ups like this. Or you could go into flight cancel. Like I said, she had a lot of ways. She even had a 50-50. She had a 50-50 like Cabal. She could do any string into this. This was a double overhead that was completely safe. A double overhead that was -7 on block. Literally only Reptile and Kung Lao I think could punish it. Everybody else could not punish this. So this move was pretty much safe against everybody. Double overhead. Gets them away. They have to get back in again. It's super annoying. If they go to block the double overhead, you just do any string into low fireball. Then you have a mix-up. If EX low fireball, it's safer and it knocks them down. So she was a very annoying pressure. Like, she had pressure and 50-50s up close. Like, having to block all this shit was not easy to do when you got in. But yeah, her main weakness being she didn't have very fast mids and she wasn't an armor character. But she was still a good character. And just to demonstrate the damage she got off this half screen mid, if she hit you with this, I'll go into a meterless combo. So back 3-2, you scream the restand, and then you can do this again. And this combo, I think, does, if I don't drop this, I believe this combo does 40% if I remember. Let's see. I'll just do the simple ender. I'll just do 1-1-1 hair throw. But yeah, 41% meterless. So Sindel had damage off some of her slow mids. Like if you got hit by that, damage. This was obviously one of the best strings in the game. It was always plus. Do mind games to be 0 like that if you just come in. Amazing zoning character. Like I said, she made... When you make Cabal come to you, you know you have good zoning. Like I said, if it wasn't for Cabal having armor to go through this from half screen and rushing her down, she would have probably beat Cabal. Because you definitely could not outzone her with Cabal. If you fought a good Sindel, she was going to outzone you every time. You had to rush her down. So yeah, definitely a top 3 zoning character in the game. Insane zoning. Really good neutral moves. She could, whiff strings and then cover her ass by going into Fireball. She had the most amount of plus frames in this game off so many strings. Like the plus frames off these strings were insane, and she could literally block infinite you if you executed this properly. Down 4 into levitate in the corner. You had to get hit. You had to just pray to Sindel player would mess up. You would jump in air, get clipped, and try to get out and go into wake up mode. If you didn't have armor, this was very annoying to deal with. So yeah, this was Sindel in this game. She was like a jack of all trades character. She was kind of like a poor man's Cabal in a way, because she didn't have armor like Cabal. She did have the rush down. She did have the cancel. She did have the zoning. She just didn't have the armor and the fast mids. But she was kind of like a mid-tier version of Cabal. Thank you so much for watching this video, and stay tuned for my next one.